we have the power to choose who we want to lead us for the next 4 years. Okay, prayers for safety, for security, for everything to go well is cool, is fine. But when it comes to making the right choices, I think that's left.
Don't you think they can? Don't you think the body, as a Christian Association of Nigeria, owns every power to walk up to the president and say, Mr. President, the country is not governable and we are looking up to having a credible election come 2023. All you need to do is to work with the security agencies and make sure that things are done. We can't just sit back and say, okay, tomorrow there will be prayer. While you are praying, there are people sitting down to say, it's just a waste of time.
But Keisha, they've been doing as far as
it's not good enough.
Really?
Yeah, it's not good enough.
The part of the Christian Association.
Yeah, it's not good enough because they need to speak up. There are some religious leaders in this country that when they walk into Aso Rock and said, Mr. President, this is not fair for Nigerians. We watch them. They just talk to their members and without coming up to speak on national television. Even some of them that speak on national television, they speak with motives. Well, some of them, someone like how do you call it, Bakare, when he's going to address, say, okay, he wants to address the nation, he comes in to speak from the aspect of being a religious leader and a politician.
He's a politician.
So his words are not really formidable enough to give us what we are actually talking about. Yeah. So we have respect for them. So they should also speak up in that.
I think they've been speaking up.
Okay, we want them to speak more.
I think they have.
All right.
The prayer call is, I think, it's a step in the right direction. Nigeria needs prayer.
Okay, let's pray. Okay,
it's about 900 naira.
Let's pray, and so don't forget, there is no miracle. You can't ask God to bring dollar back to.
No, definitely not.
All right, let's get back to Mr. Manuel. You've listened to the narratives, and from the AN News also we have Mahmoud here. The first budget was about 305 billion. And later on, he came up to say, okay, additional 50 billion is required to be added. What do you make of this towards ensuring free, credible, and fair election in Nigeria? And of course, looking at what Nigerians would be willing to sacrifice for a better Nigeria.
Yeah, election is quite capital intensive.
Right.
As I said earlier, like if you go to places like the US, for instance, because the presidential system of government that we are practicing here was borrowed extensively, if not entirely, from the United States of America.
Right.
And the election in the US is a multi-billion-dollar initiative project.
Yeah.
For a candidate to even win at the what they call their own primaries, the amount of money you spend on media is quite huge.
Right.
So, and Nigeria is a country. Nigeria is not close to one third of US.
True.
US is as big as Africa plus.
That's right.
Big. It's as huge as Africa plus other things. Actually, America is quite huge. America is like the whole continent.
Right.
So, but Nigeria is not too small. Nigeria is the biggest black nation you have in the world, and unfortunately, even with this problem of floods, where you have a lot of people's houses now, people now sleep on top of water. There are people whose houses originally are on top of water, Bayelsa State and the rest of them, rivers. There are parts of the country you have to travel far away on canoes. You have to travel on a helicopter and the rest of them.
We also saw the
access to those communities. Even before now, has always been a challenge.
Right.
You understand? So these are all part of the expenses that INEC is building into that budget. And they're going to also spend a lot of money paying allowances to the security operatives that are going to work on that day.
So in your view, they are justified with that budget?
Well, I cannot say because I don't work for that. I'm not a procurement officer.
Right.
I don't work for INEC. I don't even know anything about contract with INEC.
So just to deviate a little bit, one of the headlines this morning carried that the military has said that the amount that has been budgeted for them for security is not enough, that they needed more.
Well, I think they have to justify their demand for additional funds. All the amount of money, huge budgets that have been given to the military in the last 8 years, have they been able to justify them? If they're now arguing based on just election activities that will not take more than a week or at most 2 weeks. You know, they have to really tell the National Assembly, tell Nigerians what are they supposed to do. That amount, I don't know how much has been allocated to them.
Yeah.
You know, and this is not even part of their own institutional financing.
Yeah.
It's not part of their own institutional financing system. The amount they're going to give to security is not the chief of army staff that is going to pay from the budget of the army or the air force or the police or whatever.
Right.
It's going to be INEC that will also handle it. So I think they really have to tell Nigeria, they really have to give us justification for why they want more money. And the other time you argued about Khan saying about prayer. If somebody who is in the church, who runs a church, the religion is an industry. People run mosques and church like Mecca. People go to Mecca to spend a lot of money on pilgrimage. Somebody who is in charge of a church or a mosque, when he tells you to pray, and you're telling him, why do you have to pray? It's like even questioning the essence of his priesthood. That is the reason why he is a pastor. The reason why he's a pastor is for people to believe that prayers work. And prayers, to a very large extent, most times work. Sometimes, if not for prayers, I think Nigeria would have been scattered by now.
We know prayer works.
And I also understand your own point that we're always talking about these prayers all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the elites use that as a cover.
Right, as a cover.
And they use it as a cover to manipulate.
And sometimes most of them, they organize these prayers and they bring in these same politicians that we are praying about, bring them into their altars, their pulpit, you know, to talk to, and they bless them. And these are the same people that leave us in that penury where we are, and we're still inviting them to be part of.
But as men of God, they are not supposed to discriminate.
Well, if we go by history, we have some prophets back before then that always walk up to the king and say, "King, you were meant to be the king for the people, not against the people."
That was then. Then they were living in the wilderness. Prophet live in the mansions. They live in a big house like this. And you know what it takes to maintain this kind of house.
You have something to say about the Christian prayers.
Yeah, I wanted to say something when he said bringing the politician to the altar to pray. It's not wrong for the politicians are still Christians. They're members of the church. You can't deprive them of that right. So of coming to the altar to be prayed for. But what you would say from the angle, and also talking about prayer, remember that I don't want us to go more scientific or psychological, but you know, when you talk about the components, man is also a spirit being. So the spirit angle of man needs to be nourished too. It's important, So you can't negate the efficacy of prayer, even in this general election we're talking about, because things happen in the spirit and there could be maneuvering.
Okay, now he's going spiritual actually.
but then away from that, there should be awareness, a kind of responsibility on the side of the religious leaders.
That's right.
In a way of character formation. And checking the responsiveness of their members. When we talk about INEC, we have members of the church in INEC. When we talk about the security, we have members of the church in security. So for me, I think the church leaders should have a forum where they meet their members who works for the government. A way of trying to let them understand the balance they need to create in as Christians, representing well wherever they are.
Both Christians and Muslims.
Muslims. Generally.
Whichever religion.
Either Muslims or Christians, either of them. These leaders need to also charge their members who they know. You could call a forum, you're working in INEC, you're working as a security agent. Let's sit with them, bring them to order, tell them that you need to be good ambassadors of the principles of your religion. If like Christendom talks about righteousness, so you as a Christian, you should enforce righteousness when it comes to making sure that your duties are implemented, and also as a Muslim too, you and my mom also letting them know, understand what is the Quran saying about you discharging your duties, being diligent in it. So if these leaders could do that, it's not only about going to the president to talk to the president. We could start enforcing it by charging our members to be diligent
Right.
and also be good ambassadors of where they are coming. Because, okay, like I borrowed a leaf from him where he was talking about who should be charged. He included the responsibility of INEC. Now, if by that inclusion you understand that INEC has powers that even the president might not have time to influence during the election, because there are certain points that the INEC will be imputing and the president can't be there to impute.
Right.
Now, at that process, it's at that time that you decide who a Christian is, who a good Christian is. So if these leaders could inculcate this standard in the minds of their members, it's not about going to the president. At that point, a Christian who is a return officer will say, no, we can't do this. This is what it is, and I can't compromise it. And if they can come up to that standard, I think Nigeria can be better. And we will now see the efficacy of our prayers and also being religious too. Thank you.
Okay, ensuring credible elections comes 2023. Very important. Lizzie, what does that mean to you as we get closer to wrapping up of this program here? Because it's like you are charging someone to insist on getting it right. What will it cost me if I'm going to try my best, put in my best to get it right, and the system is not there, is not provided to showcase my right choice, the right decisions are made. Okay, I'm going to vote candidate A, not based on how much money I receive from him, but it's based on credibility, it's based on his pedigree, based on his track record. And at the end of the day, I don't see that reflected. And we are talking about ensuring credible election. Where's my responsibilities? And where's the responsibilities of the INEC? Where is the responsibility of the president, the executive? And how can we really get this as we get closer to the end of this segment? I don't know what your thoughts are within this narrative.
Yeah, my thoughts are, we don't expect, we shouldn't expect change if we do things the same way we've been doing. Okay, for us to have gotten here where we are now, it's as a result that there are things we've been doing wrongly. Okay, right. From the electoral side of the electorates, from the politicians, from INEC and all that. I think is about time. It's critical.
Right.
We're in a very critical moment, in Nigeria. I think we should all do the right thing to the best of our ability and capability this time around.
Right.
Do what's right, not sell our conscience at any level, and let's just strive to see how much we can achieve this change. Okay. That's the real positive change that we are all clamoring for.
All right.
Then it will
okay. Let's quickly hear from Mr. Emmanuel to talk on ensuring credible elections. What message do you have for Nigerians and electorates who are really clamoring for this change, not just a change, positive change?
Yeah, it is important that INEC must never deny any citizen of civic right to have access to PVCs.
Right.
Those Nigerians that have registered, I heard that those who registered this year that the PVCs are yet to be printed. They should print those PVCs and find a very efficient way of getting those PVCs to the rightful owners of the PVCs. The INEC chairman and his officials must find those saboteurs within the INEC that have diverted so many PVCs. A lot of PVCs, we have seen a lot of videos on WhatsApp groups and the rest of them where you have some PVCs that are registered maybe in places like Imo State, Bayelsa State, or River State that are found in Lagos on the streets.
Right.
So INEC chairman or the INEC management, they have a lot of work to do. There are a lot of moles, saboteurs within INEC. It was some of those moles that went and registered some dead foreign people, some white people. Some white people were registered as people from my own area, Olu senatorial zone. You find some Mr. Keto.
Interesting.
Mr. Keto, 85-year-old white Kakusha man, registered as a voter in Olu So it was discovered, and when it was discovered, then I said, well, it was just we have not cleaned up the voter register. Why are you going to clean up the voter register? If you are going to clean up the voter register, and suddenly one of the people who leaked the information got missing and he was found dead.
What?
He was killed. Yes, they assassinated him. So these politicians are very desperate, and that's why I said the onus is basically about 40% or 45% on INEC to make sure that the process of having this election done with is free, fair, transparent, and peaceful. Because this is the only opportunity that we have as a country to remain as a very secure and stable country. If the opportunity is missed next year election, and everybody sees that the election has been rigged, well, it's unfortunate what is going to happen, because I don't think Nigerians will just, though people say Nigerians are cowards, Nigerians are not cowards. A lot of things will happen if the election is rigged. They should not rig this election, because a lot of Nigerian youths have their mind set on that. So many people are already perishing. Only yesterday or the day before, I don't know whether you guys covered it on your TV. Here you have a lot of, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would have perished, but they won't tell you that. People who are trying to jump into Spain, if you want to, Morocco, you simply jump the fence and you're in Spain. Those Moroccan guards opened fire and killed so many black people. And Nigeria has the largest population of black people in the world. I'm sure out of those black people they killed, if they kill 50 black people, more than 35 or 40 will be Nigerians. But nobody's even talking about it in the country right now. The reason is that nobody wants to stay here because the system is not working, the economy is not working, we're not productive, the economy has almost collapsed. The only thing that happens here is government job, government contracts. If you're not with government, you're out of the system, you're going to die in starvation. So many Nigerians who are young, who have the thing upstairs, are finding a way to travel to Europe, so they are finding different things. So those of them who don't have that energy to do that, they're staying back in Nigeria to make sure that the next year's election is the person they want to be the president that's going to be. So INEC has to be very careful. No matter the battalions of soldiers that you surround yourself with, you are not secured. The only way anybody in Nigeria can be safe after next year's election is for them to make sure that our votes count.
Oh, thank you so very much. Let's return back to Mr. Dedmon as we wrap up on this very program. What are your final thoughts with some of our discussion this morning?
Well, there are areas INEC should look into, though the time might not be there, but it's important. Right. The individuality of the candidates. Let me use the North, for instance. We have multi-literates, many of them that are not lettered, and they are easily, let me not use manipulated by the gifts or whatever, or what they are told. I think there should be a system in where INEC can be able to educate Nigerians properly, especially at the rural areas, using so many languages we have in Nigeria, to make sure that individuals at the grassroots, the remotest places in Nigeria, they understand who they are voting for. The information about the background of these persons who they want to vote as their president. Before somebody comes to tell you, vote for me, let INEC, general, unbiasedly, fairly, all the candidates that are contesting for president, there should be a forum. Know your contestant. This person is the one on PDP. That is the responsibility. INEC and also maybe civil society, and even the church we are talking about, or the religious bodies we are talking about, should make people understand. Let people not be manipulated, because people can you can't do away with maneuvering when it comes to politicking. Right. People trying to influence people, manipulate them. But if INEC can be able to help people understand the nature and the background of individuals that are contesting, so that people can take their decision. So now you find out that the individual that can be manipulated will be minute. And in such a way we can be able to do things, right? Because when you go to something like the North especially, we have a lot of lettered individuals who can easily be manipulated because they don't really know much about these people we're talking about. It was, they will come and tell you, you saw that bag of raw rice that was given to you. I'm telling you about that man that gave it to you. And the man say, now that man gave me the rice. And because they are subsistence farmers, they're looking at what can sustain them at the moment. So because of that, what they're looking at. So anything that just was giving them information that this person can sustain, we need to give them the larger picture of what they need to know. That beyond just the food, this person, your children, the future of your children needs to be secure. So if INEC cannot, and also the civil rights organizations and the religious bodies can also engage in this within these 3 months, I think it can also help us in getting things right, and we have a fair and a credible election.
All right, thank you so very much, Mr. Desmond. All right, Lizzie, what are your final thoughts as we wrap up on this program?
Thank you. I want to thank our guests so very much for being here and for the analysis. Politics is everybody's business, so let's all ensure that we get our PVCs and exercise our franchise to vote rights.
All right, thank you so very much for staying with us on this program. It's been a wonderful time with Mr. Emmanuel Wambiko and Desmond Nadizie right on Daybreak Africa. It was actually great, and this was the first time with us here, and we are looking forward to having you again when we call on you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Mr. Dum. All right, so I'm Keisha Onye. We'll be wrapping up on this very program, but stay with Television Nigeria for other programs that will be coming your way, and looking forward to having you again tomorrow, same time. Thank you, and God bless you.